Greetings, welcome to the video help on Desmos activity Marble Slide Linear. In this activity we'll play a game that requires us to recall the slope and the y-intercept and how they change the graph of a line. Recall that in the equation y equals mx plus b, the value given by m is the slope or the steepness of the line, and the ordered pair given by 0, b is where the y-intercept occurs on our line. Keep in mind, in our textbook, the y-intercept is called the vertical intercept since the y-axis is the vertical axis. There are going to be 23 screens to work through in this Desmos activity. Starting in screen 15, the gameplay gets much more challenging. Complete as many of those as you can before you go to the discussion question. But feel free to take time to pop out to the discussion question and ask questions about any of those challenge screens that you're having trouble with. But be sure and give it an honest effort before you do that. So let's go take a look at the Desmos activity and let's see if I can give you some help getting started on it. So we log into our Desmos account, put in the code, and we get greeted with the following window. It says let's marble slide. It says here's the goals: get all the stars, get to know lines. Click on launch to see what this means. So if we click on launch, you see that the marbles come pouring out from where their starting point is, and they go down and they capture all of the stars. So that is your job in this particular activity. The game is to create lines that will allow you to capture all of the stars. So in our first example here, what we see is we have our marbles up here in purple, and we have our stars down here, and we have a line that is not quite going to capture our stars. In fact, if we click launch here, we see that we just wasted all our marbles, not a single star was collected. Well, how would we adjust this line so that we can hit all the stars? Well, we notice that it's above them. We want to slide it down. So they tell us change one number in the row below to fix the marble slide. So looking to me like if we go ahead and move this to say, oh, I don't know, -3 by chance, and we try that, we see, well, that was a little too low. So maybe we ought to try -2 instead. And go, yay, success, we have taken out all of our marbles. Okay, so notice that you may have to try a number, experiment a bit, see if that number works. If it doesn't, fix it, try a different number. You can't always go back to the original screen if you want to by hitting the tool key and then hitting reset, and it'll take you back to the original. So if you get befuddled and you want to fix it, take it back to the original one. That's how you do it. Okay, again, they ask us to change one number to fix this marble slide. So it looks like the y-intercept is correct this time. We're just too steep. We have a slope of 4 here. So let's go ahead and change that slope to 1/2. If we change that slope to 1/2, notice our new line is drawn. Click launch, and again, we are successful. In this screen, what we see is that our marbles don't all fall, our stars don't all fall exactly on a line. Let's go ahead and launch it as it sits just to see what happens. And see, we're going to miss our last 2 stars. To adjust this one, what we're going to do is adjust our domain. The thing to notice is that that item right there, the curly braces, inside of our expression gives us the domain of our function. So it's saying only the x's are going to be less than 4. And if we go over to look at the graph, sure enough, the graph is from 4 down to -infinity. So we need to adjust the domain here to make this work. So let's try extending it a little bit. Looks like we need to go out a little farther. Let's say we go out to 8. In other words, we'll change that 4 to an 8. And let's go ahead and try that. And if we launch, we see, we overshot the last marble because it doesn't follow the same pattern as the line. But we do notice that they're curving off here. And that's because the writers of this made them kind of behave like they're under the influence of gravity. So 8 was a little too big. Let's go ahead and put in, let's say a 7. Let's see if that works. Launch our marbles, and yay, we got it. So keep that in mind. When they come off the edge of the line, they're going to act just like they're the influence of gravity, and they're going to have a curve to them. That can be helpful in some of the later screens. Okay, here it looks like we're looking good, but we're going to need to add in a couple of things. First, we're going to have to adjust the domain of the given line, and then we're going to have to maybe add in a line in order to be able to catch those last 2 stars. So let's go ahead and adjust our x's so that they're not greater than 0, but let's make them greater than, let's say, 8. And if we do that, and we launch, we see, oh, well, that was pretty close. We got all but 1 star. So maybe I just need to drop the 8 down a little smaller. Let's make that 7. Oh, sorry. Make it bigger, not smaller, and go to 9. So let's try that. Okay, not close, but no cigar. Okay, maybe let's go out to 10. So again, as I'm saying, sometimes you have to go in and just do a bit of guess and check. So you put in some values, see if it works. Well, I'm getting pretty close here, but I keep missing one star. Looks like I need to add another line in, as they were saying. So get to the end of this equation, hit a return, and allow me to enter in a spot to put a new equation. So I think the slope was good. In other words, I can use the same slope as it was in my original. Notice I got to hit a right arrow to get out of that denominator before I put my x in. Well, that's looking pretty good, but I think I want to shift that up a little bit. It's a little too low. So let's go to, say, +3. And let's try launching them now. Voila. Okay, so notice we had to do two things there. We had to adjust the domain of our given line, and we had to add in a second line to make it work. Okay, so from this point forward, it's going to ask you some questions to try and solidify how the domain, the slope, and the y-intercept, or the vertical intercept, all changed our line. So I'm going to have you work through those on your own. Once you make your prediction, then you verify it by actually making the changes that they ask you to do. And once you've gone through these predictions and verifies, and you've done all those, you get to the challenge slides. And so these are much more difficult problems. You've got to add as many lines as you need, adjust the domains, etc., to be able to get all of the stars that show up on these particular slides. I'm going to let you do these on your own. But again, if you're having trouble, do not be shy to pop out of the activity, go post a question into the discussion board. You can even take a screen capture if you need to and post that, and ask for help from your peers. But don't do that until you've given it an honest effort. Try as hard as you can to see if you can make it work before you do that. Alrighty then, well, hopefully this was helpful. And again, as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please post those to the Q&A forum, or you can message me directly.